Did you know that the number one cause of hormone imbalance is stress? Not age, not poor detoxification, and not even genetics. Your stress hormones, specifically cortisol, can actually cause your other hormones to be imbalanced, especially hormones like thyroid, progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. So, if you're battling out of whack hormones, keep watching. Have you ever heard the phrase Cortisol Steel? It's a somewhat controversial term that often gets used in complementary and alternative medicine to describe how cortisol, your long-term stress hormone, can mess up the production of your other hormones, particularly sex hormones like progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. While most healthcare folks agree that stress definitely influences hormone balance, many disagree that the cortisol steal is a real thing. In fact, it gets a bit of an eye roll from most conventional medicine practitioners. Why does that matter? Well, if you understand exactly how stress hormones like cortisol and DHEA mess with sex hormones, it helps you choose strategies that solve the problem at its source, instead of just throwing birth control pills, fertility drugs, or hormone replacement therapy at the problem. And this concept is key to getting to the root of hormone-related symptoms, like chronic fatigue, anxiety, PMS, weight gain, hot flashes. The list goes on. So, we're going to look at this phenomenon from a functional medicine perspective, and I'll tell you if I think the cortisol steal is real or not. In order to understand the concept of the cortisol steal, we need to talk about how hormones are made in the first place, specifically what chemical compound they're made from, which is cholesterol. Now, we're not going to go on too much of a tangent right now, but that fact should grab your attention if you're taking medication that lowers your cholesterol, because you need a total cholesterol of at least 140 milligrams per deciliter to make adequate hormones, including testosterone, which is a big one for health and vitality as we age. Something to think about, right? So, cholesterol is where a hormone begins its journey toward becoming a very specific chemical messenger. The next step on that path is pregnenolone, and after that, we reach a fork in the road. Depending on chemical signaling from the brain, the environment, and the body, pregnenolone can head in the direction of progesterone or a different form of pregnenolone, which eventually leads to the production of cortisol by the adrenal glands. Cortisol is your body's chronic stress hormone. So, when you're in a stressed state, the body is focusing on making lots of it. In fact, it will do just about anything to make sure that it can keep up with the demand for it, because your stress response system is all about survival. You've probably heard the term fight or flight, referring to your body's innate reactions to stress, which are all geared to help you deal with a threat. So, when pregnenolone reaches that fork in the biochemical road, stress shifts the priority towards the pathway that makes cortisol and away from the pathway that makes progesterone. Cortisol is effectively stealing the ingredients needed to make other hormones like progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. And your body's logic here makes sense because who cares about things like ovulation when you're running for your life? If your brain and body are calling for cortisol, cortisol's what you get, regardless of what it's doing to the other hormone levels in your body. So, stress pulls every pathway in the direction of cortisol, depleting progesterone and ignoring the pathway to testosterone and estrogen, all because cortisol is king and survival wins over reproduction. Here's where the term cortisol steal gets a bad rap. Cortisol isn't actually stealing anything. It's not like estrogen or progesterone gets turned into cortisol directly. Your body, when under stress, is preferentially signaling for more cortisol production, which means less attention is paid to other hormone production. It's a priority issue, but guess what? It results in the same thing as stealing. More cortisol, less of the others. often significantly less. And that can seriously mess up your hormone levels. In fact, you can get stuck in a vicious cycle where cortisol signals for even more cortisol to be produced in response to the body's chronic stress state, which creates a ripple effect of relative hormone imbalance, which feeds into the blood sugar imbalance and inflammation from the cortisol, which then creates more disruptive and miserable hormone and stress symptoms. And then these symptoms create more stress on the body, and round and round and round we go. The cortisol steal turns into a downward spiral. Remember, your brain treats all stress the same, like it's a threat. So it makes sense that a hormone like progesterone would get bumped in favor of cortisol, because cortisol could save your life. If your progesterone dips, well, you might have some breakthrough bleeding, anxiety, or trouble sleeping, but you probably won't die. See what I mean? Here are 3 reasons that I find the concept of the cortisol steal helpful, even though it's not completely perfectly accurate. First, because stress is everywhere. And everyone has some stress to deal with, whether that stress is mental, emotional, or physical. We all have it at some point. So I'm not going to spend your precious time telling you that the solution to your hormone issues is minimizing or avoiding stress, because life doesn't always allow for that. But even if stress is inevitable, that doesn't mean we're doomed to have wonky hormones and anxiety and chronic fatigue and inflammation because of this cortisol steal. Once we recognize that cortisol is the problem, or at least one of the problems, and we understand what triggers it and how it functions, then we can actually do something about it. What exactly? Well, for starters, you can measure it. You can use simple, functional, at-home test kits to see how cortisol fluctuates throughout the day and night, if it's trending too high or too low, if it's rising and falling the way it should to support restful sleep and healthy energy, and yes, hormone balance. You can order these tests for yourself on my website, and I'll even help you interpret them. You'll find a link with more information in the show notes. The second reason I like this term is because it reminds us that stress isn't just all in your head. If you understand how the cortisol steal works, you can't help but see just how influential and real chronic stress is on a physical level. It's not something we can simply think our way out of, though your mindset can help you shift your perception of mental and emotional stress. Let me put it this way. If we recognize stress as a physical, chemical reaction in our brain and body, then it opens up all kinds of physical, chemical treatment strategies, ones that have nothing to do with how we're thinking or feeling. And that's a huge relief. In my experience, many women are made to feel inadequate, weak, or like a failure if they experience cortisol-related symptoms like anxiety, insomnia, brain fog, weight gain, and poor concentration. And don't even get me started on fertility, which, because of the cortisol steal, is hugely influenced by chronic stress. It's not your fault if stress is getting to you. It's biology. And functional medicine offers so many science-based physical treatment options to help you reduce or rebalance your cortisol, strategies that go way beyond mental health interventions. If you do find that the cortisol steal is disrupting your hormone balance, a functional approach also identifies the physical stress triggers that may be hiding in plain sight and creating chronic stress on a physical level. For example, things like low ferritin, subclinical hypothyroid, food sensitivities, poor blood sugar balance, and gut microbiome imbalances like SIBO, and even genetic inefficiencies that affect your ability to detoxify. If you don't recognize the role of the cortisol steal, you can miss out on a bunch of root causes and triggers for hormone dysfunction. The third reason I find the term helpful is because treating hormone imbalance without addressing the root cause, which we now understand could be cortisol related, is irrational at best. But what do we do when we're feeling the symptoms of hormone imbalance? We go straight at those hormones, usually with a pharmaceutical sledgehammer, sidestepping the whole stress and cortisol conversation. And we typically do it with minimal information about our actual hormone levels. My clients have been prescribed birth control pills, antidepressants, sleeping aids, weight loss drugs, and even hormone replacement therapy without once being asked about their stress or its role in their hormone-based symptoms. And that's a problem, because all of these medications have potential side effects, both short and long-term, especially if they're just band-aiding the real problem, which could be related to the cortisol steal. My hope is that with this information, you'll make a different choice, that you'll investigate those hormones with functional testing, that you'll give your brain and body some grace and care instead of beating yourself up for your stress-related symptoms, and that by understanding the concept of the cortisol steal, you'll be able to address the root cause of hormone issues like PMS, heavy cycles, weight gain, insomnia, hormonal acne, anxiety or low moods, hot flashes, muscle loss, low libido. Need I go on? Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I hope I convinced you that while the term cortisol steal might not be 100% accurate, the concept is crucial for finding root cause solutions to your hormone issues. If you need help assessing and addressing your hormone balance, I'd encourage you to sign up for your free Stress Better Starter Kit. I'll put a link in the video description for you. Inside, you'll find loads of resources, including more information about functional testing and treatment strategies from yours truly. And did I mention it's free? I'd also really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. There are already a few videos up about cortisol and hormones for you to check out, with more posting each week. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.